Hi folks, we're back out trying to record bats tonight. If you watched my previous bat videos, we figured out what's the best recording settings. We have recorded bats, but in the last video I've realised that if there's no bugs, there's no bats. And what I thought I'd do is figure out a method for recording bats. What are the best conditions, etc, etc. So tonight I've got myself a bit of a list. So if we start with the weather, the conditions tonight are overcast, 10 degrees centigrade, and dusk is going to be at 9:05. There's a 40% chance of rain. The wind speed is 14 miles an hour, but I think that's just an average because they're getting gusts coming through here occasionally over 20 miles an hour. And the wind is coming from the northwest. But if we have a look around, you can see we're in a mountain valley. So even though the wind might be coming from one direction at a certain speed, because the wind can get funneled up and down valleys, its speed can increase and it might not be going in the direction it says it is. But it is quite windy out in the open, so what I've done is I've come behind these trees. There's a car park over there, and behind the trees over that way there's a 14th century church. As you can hear there's sheep, so we're on farmland in the mountains, and we're actually in Nantperis in Wales. And this river here is basically the drain off from the water off the side of these mountains going up this valley. And the furthest peak up there on the right, it's covered in clouds, is a feature called Crib Goch. Now that's quite a famous walk, and in fact now it's started to rain, but it's only a little bit of drizzle and it's not going to put me off. The next thing I decided to do is basically have myself a bug factor. So normally if you come out up here you get covered in midges and other types of bitey insects, and there's loads of moths, and all that is food for a bat. Now I'm up here tonight, and on my index, which I'm going to scale, low, medium and high, I will rate the bug factor tonight as very low. I haven't seen a single bug, not even a moth, so I don't know how that'll fare with our bats. But it's good to have there as an experiment. Now there are other factors that I've noticed that might actually help us. So during the week I've been going out for a walk before dusk, and what I've realised is that swallows may have a very similar feeding pattern to bats. So the swallows are all up eating flies. And what I've realised is that they're either high up in the sky, over a bit of grassland or reedland, like that over there on the lower part, or flying really low over water. Now I do know there are normally lots of swallows here, but tonight there are none, and there are no bugs. So if there's no bugs, there's no swallows. Is that very similar to bats? No bugs, no bats. And obviously another really important factor is what kind of environment we're in. As you've seen, it's kind of mountain, moorland, leading up to rocky tops, and we're down in a valley with a river coming through. As I've said, there's a 14th century church over behind these trees. There is also a village over there, pub, quite a few houses, and quite a few old farm buildings, including barns, up and down this valley. So there's plenty of hiding places for bats. And another feature we have here are rocky cliffs. There's some small ones up there, but there's bigger ones up behind here. And down over there, there's actually a quarry. Now that's a slate quarry, but a little bit further around there's also copper mines. So there's quite a lot of tunnels, and I do know that some of them are bat protection sites. So we're not short of bats here. And the other feature, which we've also seen, is the river. Plenty of bugs around rivers. So I think the setting is good. There are bats here. I used to live just up here, so I know there are. And normally there are tons and tons of bugs, but tonight there are none. And as I said, there's no swallows, but we're going to do this anyway, just to see what happens. I've set up Clippy Ultras right here, recording into a zoom f3. So that's recording in 32-bit float at a sample rate of 192 kilohertz, and the volume stroke gain setting is 512, and we're recording in stereo. What I intend to do is hit the record button at 9:05, which is official dusk, and I'm going to leave it here for an hour, and then we're going to head off home and just check it out. Are there any bats? How many are there? Etc, etc. Right, I'll wait till dusk, I'll hit record, and I'll see you back in the house. Hi guys, here we are back in the house, and that recording session opened up a whole different world. Something happened during the process that was quite unexpected, but it's a method that you could use to attract bats near to your recorder. I've loaded the recordings into Izotope RX, so if we head over there, I'll talk you through the recording, and then we'll find out how I recorded an amazing session of bat sounds. Right guys, here we are in RX. Here's the 3 recordings right here. Remember, we started this recording at about 9:05, and what do we see? We don't really see any bats until about 20 past. When I was watching, I saw the occasional bat fly by, like this, 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 and then a few more started appearing. Now, I was off in the distance at this time, and as they were coming in, I decided to just sit down by the river about 10 meters from the microphones, and the bats kept coming. So let's go to the next recording. So this is just over here. I'm sat down 10 meters away, and what I realized after a while is I was getting bitten by midges. So midges had found me, and they were crawling over my head, and they were having a bit of a feast. But I just stayed there, and I kept my eyes open. There was virtually not many bats by the microphones, but there were loads around me. It's like they were swarming. And if we have a look at these sounds here, up to about the 12-minute mark, those are bats, but from a distance. So the colour here is not very bright, which means the sound is not very loud. So what I realised was, well, if all the bats are flying around me, trying to catch the midges, why don't I go and sit under the microphones? And this is what I did around here. And I sat down underneath, the midges followed me, and the bats followed the midges. And as you can see here, it all gets louder. I'm in front of the microphones, and all the bats are just flying around. I mean, it's close as a foot, maybe even less. So we should get some really, really good sounds out of this. Now there's another really strange thing that happened. I can swear that I could hear bat calls, like a really high pitch, a bit like, if you're from the UK, if you remember, a lot of shops put these high frequency devices outside their doorways to stop kids from hanging around. Now apparently only the kids and the teenagers could hear it and adults couldn't, but I could hear it, and what I think is that the bats are making sounds down into the audible range, but it's still a very high frequency. Because I could hear the beeps from the shops, I think I can actually hear these calls from the bats. If I zoom in here a bit, here we go. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to highlight this bit. I'm going to bring up the EQ, and we're going to take out the first, say, 15 kilohertz. Let's press render. Now that's taken out the water sound. Let's see if we can hear the bats from this. Yes. Yes. Now I can hear that just like outside the shops that I just explained. But I don't know whether you can hear it or not. And the audio being recorded here and putting it onto YouTube might affect that. But I can definitely hear just a tiny little chirp. So this shows you can hear bats in the audible range. They do make a sound. I'll have to go and check again, but what I think is that it's a social call. So when bats are hunting and echolocating, it's in a higher frequency, like this up here, 40 to 50 range. But when they make social calls, they're lower. That does just about come into the audible range. Now those social calls might be calling other bats to a food source. As I talked about swallows earlier, what I noticed with those, because they behave a little bit like the bats, you'll see one or two swallows or martins flying around, but if they find a swarm of insects, they call out and start feeding. And once they do that, you notice all the other swallows and martins from other places all go to that spot and they have a big feeding frenzy. So I think what's happened here, let's click off this, narrow it down a bit. As you can see all this, up here, this is a bit of a feeding frenzy. And these are calls. So that's my theory at the moment. It's not fact, but I think that's what's going on here. Just like the swallows and the martins, bats are social, they live in groups. Why wouldn't they call the rest of their group? Makes sense to me. So it seems from this recording session, we saw no swallows or martins earlier on. There was no bugs. Dusk came, there were no bugs. There were just one or two bats, but nothing was really happening. It was as if they were just going off searching for food. Then I sat down and I got midges around me. Midges are attracted to the CO2 coming out of you when you breathe. So if you're sat in one spot and the wind is low enough, machine outside. So if the wind is low enough, the midges will get onto you, and they were feeding on me. The bats came to get them. So in effect, if you use yourself as bait for bugs, there will be bugs. And if there are bugs, there are bats. It's here in the recordings. Now if we go on to the last one, what I've done here is I've dropped about 8 minutes of bat calls into the Audible range. And as we seem to have a load of work going on outside now, what I'll do is I'll put this on the end of the video so you could have a listen to it. I'll do it as an audio spectrogram so you can see it. I'll get out again and record some more bats in a similar way just to see what happens. Can we go to a place where there's no insects, attract insects, and then get bats at the same time? I don't know. We might go out and there might be swarms of insects, but then are we going to get any bats around us? Because they'll be where the insects are. So we'll figure out whether this is an actual really good way of attracting bats. Right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.